What up, YouTube? Man, today is one of those days. So, a little bit of an update of how fast shit changes out here. So, apparently, the TAs are having a lot of problems. I was at a TA in Vegas the other day, like day before yesterday, night before last. All the damn power was out. I had to move, go to another place, and then that place had criminal issues going on. Like, it was bad. Now I'm at a TA in Ontario, California. All the power is out. I'm like, what the? They must be going through some kind of upgrade or something. Anyways, I'm looking at all these clowns trying to get their semis to go through the tape. Give it up. So anyways, when you go to the Swift Academy, they give you a whole bunch of information. One of which is a booklet. It's a little white booklet. It's got a whole bunch of rules and stuff like that about Swift. But on the back of it, it has all of the terminals where you can go park. Now, I knew that California had the most. It has 5 terminals. They have 5 terminals here in California. Well, I was going to be coming in. So what happened was, I had a drop yesterday at 8:30 in the morning. I dropped at 8:30. No, it was at 10. I lied. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm looking at my schedule. They couldn't take me early, so I got there at 9:30, parked. They started unloading at 10 o'clock on the dot. I was out in 17 minutes. My second load for the day was only 7 miles away, and the appointment was for 2, but there was a window that was from 11 to 2, and I was like, okay, no big deal. I usually call the people before I get there to let them know, hey, I'm a driver for Swift, I'm coming in, it's now a good time, because I would prefer to sit and wait, if that's what I'm going to have to do, on my own terms, park at a place where, I can get out and do shit. I don't like to sit in this truck. They said on the phone, oh no, we're good. We got all these bays. We'll get over there, no big deal. I was picking up a bunch of recycled garbage. I hate those loads. They're heavy as fuck. Cool story about that in a minute. So I get to the Republic place, get through the first window, no problem. Get to the second one, and the girl's like, oh, well, your appointment is until 2 o'clock. I said, well, it's from 11 to 1400, actually. I said, but I called beforehand. I'm not rude to people in person. I am sarcastic, and I do curse a lot, but I'm very professional in person. To professional people, if I just meet you in a truck stop, then you're going to get me. But I'm not like this when I'm like representing Swift and shit. Like, no, I got some sense. And I explained to the young girl, hey, I called, blah, blah, blah. She was like, well, the problem is that there's another Swift guy. You might have seen him. And I did. When I pulled in, there was a Swiftie at the top of the hill asleep. And she was like, well, his was from 10 to 1. She was like, so he kind of has to go before you. And I'm like, well, okay, well, what's the deal with him? Like, why is he like not down there? And she said there was some kind of problem with the paperwork or whatever. So she said to go down or go back up the top of the hill. Once I saw him, go 15 minutes after him, because they don't take load. I mean, it's a bunch of bales of garbage, so it's already put together. They just throw it on the truck, and it doesn't matter which bales go on which truck. It's about weight. So it's not like you have to wait for them to move some shit. So I wasn't understanding what was going on, but I was going along with it, whatever. Excuse me, I just ate. So I go up the hill and I knock on his door, and he's asleep, and he wakes up. He's a young dude. And I'm like, hey, like, what's the holdup? Like, why can't you, like, go get your load? And he was so funny. He said, is it 1 o'clock yet? Is it 1 o'clock? And I said, no, fool, it's 11. I said, but I can't go get my load because my window is an hour later than yours. I said, until you get your load. And then he explained to me he didn't have any pickup numbers, purchase order numbers, BOL no. He didn't have no numbers. He just had a to and a from. And his driver leader, he said, I've been here since 9. His appointment was from 10 to 1. So, like, they train us at Swift. We get there fucking early. If it says you can get there at 2, you have an hour before that you can actually get there. At most places. He said, I've been here since 9. I said, well, how do you, not to be rude, but how are you going to get these numbers? Like, why is it taking 2 hours to get a fucking number? Like, are you sleeping? Like, how long have you been asleep? Like, and he answered me. He was like, man, I'm so tired. He was like, I'm used to driving at night. He was like, and then I parked last night. He didn't know he was going to be getting this load put on him for the morning. So he had like been up all night playing games and shit. And then he got this load, like the message woke him up. He was asleep. He'd only been asleep for like 4 hours. I wouldn't have taken it. That's just me. My sleep is very important. So I got where he was coming from because I've been there. And that's why now, knowing how tired I get and shit like that, I would have, like, there's tons of garbage that needs to go across this country, okay? It's not the end of the world. He could have asked for a later time. I mean, there's so many different ways that could have went down. So I wind up sitting up there. Well, it's fucking 1:45 and I'm still waiting. Now keep in mind, my clock is still running. So I've wasted all these hours. And that load came from wherever the fuck I was, Vegas, North Las Vegas, all the way down here to California where I am now. And I knew that I had to deliver that load of garbage at 7:15 this morning here. So it wasn't a matter, it was only a 4-hour drive. So the drive itself, I wasn't worried about. My 14-hour clock was just ticking away. So by the time I went down there, I told the girl, hey, look, this kid doesn't have his shit. My clock is ticking away. Like, they finally got me in there. I get up. You have to scale when you go out. And make sure all your shit's all California regulated and stuff before you leave. I get up to the window. You do all your scales. You know, you're in different sections on the axle. I get up there, and she's like, hold on 1 second. Sure, waste some more of my time. Why don't you? She said, can you go ahead and open your trailer doors again? She was like, we can still fit more on there. She was like, so I'm going to have him bring 2 more bales on the forklift. There is a line of Republic trucks. Republic is like the waste management people, but the blue dumpster people. That's Republic. Waste management is the green ones. There's like a line of like 6 blue dudes that need to get out of here, but they have to go on that scale. And then not to mention all the semis that are there trying to leave. And, you know, if there's a Swift person holding anyone up, you're going to get some shit about it. But when they saw it wasn't my fault, they were looking at this dude on the forklift, and then he dropped the bale. It slid, one slid off the other one. There was trash all over the place. It was a fucking hot mess. So then he finally gets the 2 bales squeezed into my trailer. My trailer was pretty fucking full to begin with. And I was at 76,000, and then she said for him to go put 2 more. Do you know that we did that? Me and him both walked back up to the window. I get in the truck because I wait too. And she's like, okay. She was like, I'm 60 pounds short. And she's looking at the dude, and he's like, the bales don't come in small, medium, and large. He was like, it's 60 pounds. In the meeting the other day, and he goes into whatever they talked about at the meeting about, you know, if it's under so many pounds or over so many pounds, they have a give and take of poundage that they can work with. But she was like me. She's a perfectionist. And she conned him into going back, cutting one of those bales in half and bringing another bale. And then I could barely close the fucking door. It was a nightmare. It took forever. So there was 5.5 hours wasted in transitioning from the first drop off to when I finally left the shipper. So I had a fuel stop that I needed to stop at. It's actually the fuel stop that I'm at right now. If I would have put fuel, I wouldn't have made it. So I said, fuck it, we're not doing fuel today, let's go. And I knew that I would gain fuel back whenever they emptied this trailer. So I was cutting it close. I look on that book to see Jurupa Valley was too far. Fontana was a little closer, but was still going to be a little far. The problem I was having was because so much of my clock had been run out. It was later, and time had been passing by as well. You know, time itself never stops. So by the time, what was happening was by the time I was going to get to where I needed to drop in the morning, in Compton, by the way, shout out to the peeps in Compton. Last night was a night, that's for sure. Thank you, Jesus, I'm alive. But anyways, by the time I got to Compton, it was going to be like 10 o'clock at night. So the problem with that is I needed to deliver at 7:15 in the morning. Why is that a problem? Because if I'm signing off at 10 o'clock at night, that means I can't even start my clock until 8 o'clock in the morning. So I have to be off the clock for 10 hours. So I said, fuck doing fuel, like, let's just go. Well, I got stopped at, every time you come into California, there's an inspection station. I usually get to go right past, but they weren't busy and I just looked cute, I guess. I had to go in the bay for a level 1 inspection. Well, at least I can check that off my bucket list, I guess. That took an hour and 15 minutes. I get out of there. I got my sticker on my truck. I'm good for the month of September in California. Whoop, whoop. Was in and out. Oh, well, as in and out as you can be in an hour and 15 minutes. I get on the highway, and this inspection site was going up the mountain. So I'm like 79,994. I'm dragging ass. Or dragging trash literally up this mountain. Slowed me down so much. Let's skip to the end of the story. So I winded up skipping fuel, getting to the shipper. Getting to the receiver. The terminal. That's the part that I'm missing. On this book, I pulled over real quick. Oh, the Qualcomm went down. They were having a system upgrade. They should really warn some people about that shit. So I was sitting on the side of the mountain for about 20 minutes. So in that time, I went ahead and pulled out my book and said, oh, okay, there's this place called Wilmington, California, and supposedly they have a terminal there. I'd never heard of it, but I'm not familiar with all the fucking terminals. So I was just like, okay, there's one in Nobody Cares, Willows, California, where like population is like 2. And those 2 people work at the only fucking building that's in Willows, California. It's called Swift. So it's not unheard of for Swift terminals to be in these really weird places. So I was like, oh, Wilmington is, pretty much Long Beach. I was like, wonderful. I'm so excited. Started reminiscing about all those rap songs I listened to all those years. That's where I was going at night. I get about within 2 blocks of this place where it's saying the terminal is. I start calling in to my driving team. I was like, yeah. So I'm going to the terminal in Wilmington, California. Can you tell me if it's still in operation? The guy that I was talking to, he was a new guy. He wasn't familiar with it. And I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and drive up there. It looks so promising. It was the same cookie cutter Swift terminal that you see at every city and state, with the exception of Houston. Almost all the terminals look exactly the same. The academies, everything, they all look the same. Same blue and white building. Everything was the same except it was all fenced up and chained off and you couldn't even get on there. So they closed that one down. So my backup plan to still being on time, well, that failed really quick and I was in the HOOD. Now, I am not... I've lived in the actual ghetto before. Hello, I was pregnant, single at 17 with nowhere to live. I've done things. I've been around people who've done things. And I've lived in some very interesting places. So, I can get ghetto when I need to. I don't always have to talk like this. But, for the most part, you know, people are just people. You just have to be careful about safety. So I saw that I got on Trucker Path real quick. There was not a truck stop for 46 miles. So I see that this is a problem over there because there's trucks parked all over the streets where all the no parking signs are. These are very narrow, little bitty streets. So I said, fuck it. If I'm going to sleep in the street, I'm going to at least be outside knocking on the fucking receiver's door. And that's exactly what I did. There was gunshots, there was police, there was a couple of fights. Some guy was running around beating on trucks with bats and crowbars. Like, it was an interesting night. I did not get much sleep at all. But I was on time. And I was in and out of that motherfucker. And now, here's the kicker. Because I didn't get no sleep last night, this kind of works out to my advantage. So I told y'all, sometimes your shifts can change. That is what is happening right now. So right now here in California, it is 11:15. I have to be at the Home Depot Distribution Center in Paris, California tonight at 9:30. Which means my ass needs to go to sleep like right now. So I had a drop this morning. And then I had to drive 30 miles to this TA to come back to put fuel, but I'm also closer to where I need to be to pick up from the shipper. So I need to be up by about 7, do all of what I normally do in the morning, the shit, shower, shave, eat business. Well, now that's going to be at nighttime. And then I have to drive 33 miles to get to the Home Depot, drop this trailer, pick up the next one, and I'm headed to Colorado. So now, just like that, since August the 6th, I have been on the 5 a.m. wake up routine. I wake up between 4 and 5. By 5:36, I'm on the road every single day. And just like that, I went from doing a drop this morning to now flip-flopping in that same 24-hour period. And tonight at 9:30, I pick up and start my 14-hour clock. So now I'll be driving at night and pulling into the truck stops in the morning when everybody else is pulling away. So don't believe the hype. There are a lot of people on YouTube that are doing these videos with ulterior motives. I called that shit out a long time ago on quite a few people. But y'all need to, in the words of Meek Mill, y'all need to stay woke and pay attention to what's really going on. Some people just don't have the audience's best interest at heart. There's more to it. And that is being made abundantly clear on YouTube today specifically. Boy, I feel like a politician. So anyways, fear not. That will never happen on this channel because I got a job to do, man. Like, I got time to be playing with toys and trying to, I don't even fucking know what the fuck you're trying to do, but don't believe the hype. Don't. I've been warning you. I've been trying to let y'all know there's bigger things going on behind some of these YouTube people's scenes, and I've seen it firsthand. I've lived it. Got the fuck out. I'm not about that life. This is all you're ever going to get. I think I've made one video from home. When I'm home, I actually turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. Like, I don't even talk to, like, my mom, my siblings. It's about my husband, my kids, and my 5,000 animals. Like, that's it. So, I don't make videos from home. I'm not interested in buying, you know, I won't even buy a fucking tripod. My son tried to give me one. I put it up there in a cabinet somewhere. He was like, here, so you can hold your phone steady and your hand doesn't hurt. Man, I don't give a fuck about that shit. I do these videos when I'm either waking up or going to bed. And it's just really to share my information. This is what I go through on a day-to-day basis. If you want to listen to it, you'll tune in. And if you don't, you can... What do? It's not Tinder. You don't swipe left or right. I don't know. Keep it moving. Scroll that shit away. But it has definitely been an interesting 24 hours, to say the least. And like I said, you got to be ready to take whatever is thrown at you. So sleep, very important. I make sure that I sleep at least 8 hours a day. And that is not an exaggeration. That is not a fucking lie. I have to sleep 8 hours a day. At the least minimum 7. So, bitch need to go to sleep. I've already eaten and that's why I keep burping. Thank you, bariatric surgery. So anyways, sleep is very important, and this is why. I slept a little bit last night on and off just because I was in a street in a really fucking sketchy part of town. I thought, oh, well, for sure when the sun comes up, it'll be better. Actually looked worse. There was a lot of shit that I saw that I didn't want to see. So at nighttime was a little better. But it was just one of those not safe situations. But that just happens to be where my drop was. So I stuck it out. You know, sometimes I never thought I would be one of those people that say, oh, I had to sleep on the side of the road. I fucking did. And thank God the cops, they didn't really bother nobody because everybody's doing it. There's nowhere to fucking park out there. I was at the port in Long Beach. There's nowhere for any, you have cargo carriers all over the place. There's nowhere for anybody to park. So if somebody wants to make some money, y'all need to build some truck stops out there. There's nowhere for people to park but the street. And there was some roach coaches parked here and there because there was a shitload of people. It was pretty crazy to see. I've never been in anything like that, never witnessed anything like that. Excuse me. So it was definitely interesting. And I'm glad that we survived and I lived to make another video and say hello to my family. So now I'm going to get going to sleep. And just like that, my schedule has changed. So my miles are also the same. I still have all of my same loads. I'm still going for another 7 days. I have loads for I actually have loads for 8 days. And when I start getting to like day 6 or 7, they'll start adding more loads. So if you're coming into this business, you know, a lot of people give me shit because I don't talk about the money I make. That's just like asking a girl how much she fucking weighs. You just don't, or how old she is. You just don't fucking do that. I showed y'all one video. That's how much I made with the Mentor. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out practically how much money I make now that I'm solo, and I've shown you the miles that I drive. And I've already stated how much I make per mile. So the only thing you're missing is detention pay, layover pay, dumb shit like that. So it's not very hard to figure out how much money I make. But that's a private thing. You don't ask people, oh, how much money do you make? I understand why you want to know, but that's just private. And like I said, results may vary. You have to be willing to come out here and fucking grind. You have to be a hustler in this business. You can't be patient and be like, oh, okay, here's a Walmart truck. Oh, pardon me, go ahead. You can't be that way. Out here, it's cutthroat. This is probably the most competitive industry, and that's coming from the beauty industry and television. This is the most cutthroat industry I've ever been in. And you have to have some tough skin to come out here, and you really have to be willing to get the fuck out of that bed. And Swift, those mattresses are $800. They're very comfortable. It's really hard to get out of those mattresses sometimes, but you have to do it. You have to keep these wheels turning as long as there's time on that clock. And my clock is so fucked up. Look, y'all, because of the upgrade yesterday. Says I have negative 12 hours. What the fuck? I've gotten all kinds of shit on that thing. It'll fix itself after I sit for 10 hours. But, you know, always have a backup GPS plan. When that thing went down, the only reason I had to sit for 20 minutes because the guy had me doing stuff up underneath my bunk where it's actually located, the actual brain of this thing is located. He needed some information. I had to push start, hold for 10 seconds, that kind of shit. But once he didn't need me to physically do anything anymore, my iPad was down here hooked up to Bluetooth, and I got to go. I don't got time to be waiting on Qualcomm. You have to have a backup plan for GPS out here. You have to be able to sleep on command and wake up on command, and be ready to flip-flop that schedule at any given time. A lot of people wouldn't have stayed where I stayed last night. I would have driven. Had I had more time, I was even out of personal conveyance time, y'all. Like, I ran that clock out. There was nowhere for me to go. There was nothing, not a terminal, nor a commercial place, or any other truck stop. Really, I wouldn't have cared. For 43 miles, I think, was the closest. And then I would have been further away, and it would have made me late. So sometimes things aren't going to work out the way... I think my nose ring is falling out. Hold on. There we go. Sometimes things are not going to work out according to that Qualcomm system, according to your trip plan. It doesn't matter how prepared you are. You cannot prepare yourself for the unknown. These things that I've gone through in the last 24 hours are what we call the unknown. And shit like this has happened to me before. Not the whole sleeping in the street in the hood kind of thing where I really just didn't feel safe. Like, it just wasn't a safe night. But at the time, it was the best alternative. I was literally legally out of options. And I had to make sure I got the fuck off that clock. Otherwise, my load would have been late. I'd be looking at the receiver and being like, I know I'm late, but, you know, I gotta wait for the fucking clock. Like, I don't want to be that asshole. So, you gotta be prepared, man. You really, really have to be prepared. And you really, really just, you have to roll with the punches, honestly. I mean, because you're gonna get punched and jabbed, and somebody may even throw a roundhouse kick to your face. You just got to be ready for it. So that's the update. And it's going to be an adjustment period here over the next few days. So y'all won't have to listen to me for at least a couple of days. So that's cool. But y'all have a good one. And I will catch up with y'all probably this weekend. Peace.